Hey guys, we are back, and today is a super exciting episode. We are here with our friend that my sister will introduce you here pretty quickly. But this episode, like all episodes, is going to be so good. So Kim, take it away.
Hey guys, so today is our very first guest on the podcast, and I wanted it to be somebody that was near and dear to our hearts and has kind of been a part of my journey and the building process of like where we've come from in the last 3 to 5 years. So the person I'm having on the podcast is one of our salon team members, and she has been with us the longest out of everyone that we have on the team. And she is a balayage and lived-in color expert. She rocks it out with Malibu and Olaplex, and she sets herself apart in our small town by going above and beyond with excellence in everything that she does. She is a mom. She is a wife. She's just the kind of person that you want to be around, and just hanging out with her makes you feel so good and centered. And I'm so excited for you guys to catch her energy. So I give you Monica.
Hi. Thank y'all for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're excited too. It's going to be so much fun. Okay, so Nessa has a list of questions, and Monica has already received these questions because we did not want to blindside her. So we're all I'm not prepared. I don't know what's going on. I'm just here along with you guys. So Nessa has her list of questions to go over with Monica, but I'm going to let Nessa take it away because she is orchestrating the whole thing. So I am here.
Thank you for being here. So today we are going to hear such a beautiful story from Monica, and I want us all to be open and ready to hear what she has to tell us because she's, yes, going to share her story with us, but through Monica is a beautiful message that we are all here to hear. So I ask that you would open your heart for something new, and so we're going to dive right in. Monica has a lot to say, and I know she has a lot to say, but we just kind of want to start so that we all understand where Monica began, where she came from, why did she come into the beauty industry. So Monica, go ahead and tell us your story. Where did you start with all of this?
So I started in the beauty industry. My daughter is 12 years old, and I started maybe like right before she hit 1 years old, or maybe she had just hit 1 years old. At that time, I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. There was no vision in my head of how I was going to raise a human being. And that was very scary. I was a single mom. So it was like, okay, got to do something, and we got to get going with it, because I learned very quickly that you cannot rely on anybody to help you, give you handouts. You have to work to get where you need to be. So I enrolled myself in beauty school, cosmetology school, and that was where I began my journey. And it was a very emotional and frustrating time at that time as well, because I also had to work part-time and go to school full-time. So that was very tough. I went to school, correct me if I'm wrong, but Kim, I think it was like from 8 to 3, or like Tuesday through Saturday, 8 to 3. And so after school, I would go to work. I worked part-time at a place that sold shoes. And I chose to work there because they got paid weekly. So I needed the money, and it was nice to get paid every week. So it was really hard because I'd have to pick up my daughter, or no, I think at that time I lived with my mom. And so she would have to pick up my daughter. Sometimes I would get to, but then I would immediately have to go to work. And then when I would get home, my daughter would be asleep. So that was really, really tough because I didn't know if I was doing the right thing. I guess at that time I felt, am I supposed to be with her all the time? You know, why am I not here? There was a lot of mom guilt in that. And then I had to understand that that was just a temporary time. It was not going to last forever. It was only going to last for 1,500 hours of cosmetology school. And then after that, I could find work somewhere else. So that's how that started.
Wow, that's such a beautiful story. Did you notice any feelings come up for you? Because I think I noticed it. I think that thank you for being so vulnerable and so honest with us. That was beautiful. Sometimes those moments catch us off, but I just want to say it's welcome here. So thank you for being so vulnerable and honest with us. Wow. Yeah, that is hard. Go ahead.
I think that, Monica, your story is so beautiful because I think that there are so many women who start cosmetology school and, anyone on the gender spectrum. A lot of people start school having just had a major life transition, like having a child, or they are pregnant, or, there's a lot going on for people who are in school. And when you're in school, you question it. A lot of people drop out of cosmetology school. I call it community service because that's what it feels like. It literally feels like 1,500 hours of $6 haircuts and pedicures on people that shouldn't be getting pedicures. They need to have surgery. Like, why is it that the people who are high risk diabetics are the ones getting pedicures? That's not safe. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of moms, especially single moms, who can really resonate with your story. And I think that just you being vulnerable and open and sharing that really is going to help a lot of people. So thank you for sharing that, Monica. I think it gives people hope when they're in it to see someone on the other side of it.
Of course. Thank you for listening. Yes, the part where I have to leave my daughter is really hard. Like going back to that and kind of just listening to myself again, it was a really tough time at that time. Because yeah, you question yourself. You're like, am I doing the right thing? Is this even what I want to do? Like, is this even going to make me money? Am I gonna, there was so many things that I was questioning of myself. And especially when she would be asleep when I would get home. That was really, really hard because then it was like, okay, let's wake up and do it all again the very next day. It was just this, every day was like the same day, except on the weekends when, I didn't have, well, sometimes I did have to work. So that was a really tough time. But you do what you have to do as a mother too. And
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to say that you are such a fucking badass and that you did the best you could with what you had. And that she is the mother that you needed during that time. So yeah, absolutely. So then what happened after cosmetology school? What happened next?
so right after cosmetology school, I remember a friend, she either called or texted me and she told me, hey, there is this salon that is hiring, and it was a corporate salon at the time. They're hiring. She had seen, I don't know what she had saw, but she's like, they're hiring. If you want to go, like, I feel like you would be a good fit for that place. And I'm like, okay, cool. It was located in our mall. So at that time, it was like a place that you would walk by and you were like, oh, hey, like it just looked really cool to be there. So And I do remember somebody that worked there at the time, like every time I would walk by, there was just something about him that I don't know, he just looked really cool. The way he dressed, the way his hair was, like he just looked really cool. So I just thought what an honor it would be to work in the same place that, that he worked at. So I applied, and it was pretty quickly that I got a call back and I got an interview set up. And I want to say that right after I left the interview, maybe an hour later, I got the call that, hey, we want to bring you onto our team. And I was ecstatic, just so happy, because it's like one of those things where you feel like, okay, yes, like it paid off. There's something else. Like I went to school and now, yes, I'm working at this place. But I also want to be very honest. I still at this time did not know that I really wanted to do hair. I wasn't sure that that was where I wanted to be. I didn't know that I wanted to cut hair or color hair. I was just rolling with it because to me at that time it looked fun, and it was something fun to do besides working retail, because I had worked retail for so long. So it was something new and fresh to me.
Okay, so you're at this new location, and was there anyone that stood out to you besides that person?
Yes, there were actually two women at the time that when I walked into that salon and I took my first haircut, I felt like I didn't know anything, because I don't know, you get out of cosmetology school and you're confident and you're like, "Ooh, I feel good. I can do this. Like I got this," because you're a senior. So you're a little bit more leveled up than the juniors or, any of the lower class that comes in. So I was confident. I was like, I got this. And then I walk into the salon and these two women that are there were freaking amazing at what they did. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I don't know anything. And that fear sunk in, and I felt like I was like back as a freshman in school. I'm sorry, is it? Yeah, it's a freshman, right? That's what we're called when you're first starting. I was like, oh my gosh, like the first person that I took was a haircut, and I kid you not, like I froze, and I was like, do I even know what I'm doing? I completely went blank, like I had started completely over. So that was very scary. And they were actually very, very nice. They never made me feel like I wasn't doing well or that I wasn't doing good. It was just, I was comparing myself at the time to their level. But these women had been doing hair for years. So I did not know at the time that I didn't need to be comparing myself to two women that had been in the industry for years already. But that's hard when you're first starting out.
I'm gonna speak up, Nessa. It is really fucking hard whenever you get out of school and you start working to not compare the beginning of your journey to someone else's middle. Because especially like you're just glad that you passed boards, right? And you're on top of the world, because a lot of people don't even make it out of school. And a lot of people that make it out of school don't make it past boards. So, I mean, I would love to know the statistics on that, because it is mind-boggling. So I absolutely resonate with what you're saying about that, especially understanding, because coming from a corporate salon, there's numbers, there's reports, and then they give you some type of a goal for starting out, and you're like, how the heck am I supposed to even hit that in a week? And then you look at the other people and then you see their numbers and you're like, fuck, I am way out of my league. I don't know what I'm doing. This is too much. So just you sharing that like definitely brought it up for me, because you know exactly who I'm thinking about, with who I was constantly comparing myself to. But that's another journey for another day. So please continue.
I completely forgot about boards. I forgot how scary that was. Yes, but to be honest with you, I think initially when I was doing the, oh man, like how did I forget what all of this is called? You just forget about it. When you're working on your mannequin and doing all that, that wasn't necessarily scary for me. Maybe when I first walked in the building, but then once you get in there and you're doing it, you're just like, okay, I got this. The written was what was very scary for me, because, you know, if you didn't pass, you had to like go back and retake it again and pay the amount of money. And at that time, for me as a single mom, like I just didn't have that type of money to be. So it was like, girl, you better get this done and you better pass it like immediately the first time. And I did, and thank goodness.
Good. I'm so glad you did.
Me
Did you
too.
want to mention anything else?
Yeah. So that's the thing with where we live. We don't have boards close by. You also have to take a trip, take time away from your family, take time away from work if you're working during school, to go and take that test. And back then, it used to be you could take your written at 1,000 hours, and then you take your technical once you hit your 15, and then your school submits your hours. So you can't, like, you could take them separately, but you had that 500 hours. So if you needed to take the written multiple times, you could. But you have to drive at least 2 to 3 hours one way to go to boards where we live. So it's not just taking the test, it's all the time. And then obviously the anxiety of like the trip there. And then if you're going to do it in one day, awesome, but it's a lot to do it all in one day. So most people need at least 1 or 2 nights of hotel stay as well. So it's a pretty big commitment. And then I think now they can take it all at the same time, because I think everything submits at 1,000 hours. I'm not sure. I heard that Texas dropped to 1,000. I need to check my TDLR emails and see what it actually says. But I'm like, guys, I would not have been ready at 1,000 hours. There is no way in hell I would have been ready. I mean, I know what happened on the floor between 1,000 and 1,500 hours. We did not need that out of school. It's a good thing that it happened in school, where instructors could be like, okay, well, let's try this and adjust this, versus being on your own. Even in a corporate salon, yes, there's people that can help, but I mean, that's the real world, and you have to have your shit together. Or at least fake it till you make it, because it's a lot. Okay, Nessa, y'all continue.
So, was there anything that stuck out to you that you decided to go to cosmetology school? And was there anything in cosmetology school that you did that was like, ooh, I like doing this?
Okay, I'm going to be really honest. The only reason why I chose cosmetology school, because it was something quick. It was not a university. It was, even the junior college that we have, I looked into stuff there, but everything that, in order for me to reach something, it was going to take me at least 2 to 3 years. And so I just did not, I didn't want to take that time to do any of that. And so cosmetology I was like, okay, it's 1,500 hours. Like, I've got this. I can do that, and I can accomplish that. So I knew something was going to take time. I just didn't have 2 to 3 years to accomplish something. So cosmetology was fast. It was a little bit easier. So I decided to jump in there, but little did I know that it was going to lead me to where I am. So that's also kind of cool too, looking back.
Did yours take about a year, Monica?
It did. So at that time when we were there, we started off at the
The Chad
where we went. Yeah, the previous location. So when we moved and they had this big, beautiful new building that was like completely redone, we were like, wow, you know. So at that time, they were allowing us to come in a little bit early and clock in early. And then you could even stay a little bit later if you were working and you were being productive. And so that was how we gained hours a little bit more quicker too.
Yeah, awesome. Monica and I went to the same beauty school at different times. Monica went before me. I've been licensed for 7 years now, and Monica, you're at 11-ish.
Oh man, see that I think I'm like at 12 because Kymie's 12. So I'm at, yes, 11-ish, 12, somewhere around there.
Somewhere in there, yeah. And I think I renew next year, and it'll be 8 for me next year. So we went to the same school, but I went to the new school that Monica was talking about, where it was like big and beautiful. And it's so interesting how some people take 1.5 to 2 years to finish, and some people and they force you to take a lunch, so you can't like skip lunch and stay clocked in. But I was the same. I would get there at, I think the earliest you could clock in was 8 a.m. and theory began at 8:30. And I was there at like 7:50 every single day. I tried to stay late. They wouldn't really let us stay late because the instructors wanted to get out of there. But there were several times where I stayed late to try and, do as much as I could. But I think I finished I think at like 11 months. So, but there were people there who had like dropped out, came back, dropped out, came back, like that whole thing. And some people just take longer, and that's okay. That's their journey. But I'm glad, but that just goes to show, like, if you're determined, you can make shit happen. Absolutely. And your life can look completely different in 1 year if you just commit.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't know that you have been licensed that long, Monica. That's so cool.
Me
Wow.
neither.
It just takes thinking about it. Wow, that was so crazy. Wow. So it sounds like right at the like you just got out of cosmetology school, you're feeling like I've got this shit, and then like right when you start at the corporate place, it was like, oh fuck, I know nothing. So what happened there? Did you learn anything from them? Like how what was that space in that corporate place, like how did that help you develop into your skill?
I am very grateful for the two people that I was telling you about that were working there because they were very patient. If you had questions, they would answer, and they never made you feel like, shouldn't you already know this by now? They were very patient with all of us. So I would just watch them. I would, there was quite a bit of downtime. So and during that downtime, what I would do is I would just listen to them and the way they spoke to their people, to their guest that was in their chair. The Not necessarily like listening to the conversations, but just getting a feel of how they were making their people feel in their chair, because these were people that you would see regularly. They were coming in every, 6 or 8 weeks to get their hair done by them. So I wanted to know, like, okay, what are they doing and what are they showing them that they keep coming back to them? And it was, these two people were very popular in that salon because not only because of their personalities or anything, but it was like the way they dressed. They dressed really well. I do remember that they would wear like high heels all the time, and I had no idea how they worked in high heels like every shift that they had. They were super cute. Just now, I am not a high heel person, so you wouldn't catch me in that, but just the way that they dressed, the way they carried themselves, the way they would curl and change up their hair color. It was just all of those things that I would pay attention to, because that is what brought the guests back into the salon. So at that time, this salon had a really good, it was a good education system. So they would bring in educators. We would learn from them and take notes and do so. I was very lucky at that time that we had all of that available, because then slowly but surely it started to just kind of go away. And you all know, in the hair industry, education is one of the most important things. Like, you never, ever, ever stop learning. And when you don't get your education, that can make your business feel like it starts to get boring. It starts to not be, it just doesn't feel right. There's just something not right. So that was very important. It still is.
Also, that is a big draw for new stylists to go to a corporate salon is, oh, we're going to give you education. Like, you're essentially getting it for free. Whereas people who are independent like us, we obviously have to pay for all of that out of pocket. And when you're a new stylist, typically you can't pay for that. So for you to be promised that education and for it to slowly dwindle away into nothing, it's like, well, what's like, you're not holding your end of the deal up here. Like, what do you want me to do? And it's hard to, and that's part of a company's branding as well, is those trends that they're putting out, and those, because a lot of it's color technique and cut technique and things like that they're teaching you. For us at the corporate salon that I was at, it was like twice a year. So there was like a fall and a spring. How often were you guys getting that education?
It was about the same, because around fall and spring, that's when mostly everybody wanted to come in and change their hair up. So you would get the brighter colors, how to darken hair, the new, every year you always hear, oh, this is the haircut for 2022. And so, yes, we would always get those little emails. And so, and then you were really excited. You're like, yes, okay, cool. We get to learn something new. And it was fun and exciting. And it just kept the industry fresh.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel like that's a good time frame for education anyways, because holiday season, you don't want to try and take time away from the salon for education when you're busy and you're booked. And then summer, a lot of people are traveling, so it's hard to make sure that everyone can be at that training. Clients are traveling and stylists are traveling, so it just gets a little crazy. So fall and spring do tend to be the best times for stuff like that. Okay, Nessa, continue.
So I just wanted to make sure that I understood. When you meant dwindle, did they like end up taking that away, or was that like it was no longer useful information?
So let me see. I mean, it didn't happen immediately. It took a few years for that to happen. But the industry started shifting. People at that time were jumping into, going off to salons where you were booth renting. And so there was a shift in all of that. And so you could kind of just feel that something was going to happen. And I kind of jumped ahead of myself there, talking about that. But a little while after I had been there, let me see, I had already been there maybe about 4.5, 5 years. And one of the girls that I had really looked up to, she actually asked if I was interested in a management position. And I was like, no, not really. And she was like, well, and it actually made me feel really good that she even asked me, because, here I am still looking up to them. And then she asked me if I would be interested in her position. And I was like, whoa, hold on. Not that she had the power to give it to me. I'd still have to interview for it and all that. But it was just really cool that she was interested in like putting in a word for me, like, hey, So I kind of felt like, you know what, if I'm going to be here, why not? I had no plans on moving on at that time. Um, I was pretty secure where I was. Um, Also, let me go back a little bit. When I got my first paycheck, because this is, to me, I still think about this. When I got my very first paycheck from there, I looked at it, and I'm going to share the number. It was like $360. And I cried because I thought to myself, how in the hell am I going to pay bills and raise a child off of $360? Like, what the hell? That was
Was it 2 weeks? Was it a 2 week
yes.
pay?
Uh-huh. Yes. And so it was like, okay, great. I went right back to none of this shit was worth it. Here I went to beauty school or cosmetology school. I did all of this. I did all this work only to get this paycheck that is $360. That was really, really hard to look at that. And I still see myself opening that check and looking at that number because it just hit so hard. And so I was like, okay, well, if but I also wasn't in a position that I could just quit and like go somewhere else. So I was like, all right, it's time to like step it up. How do I step it up and how do I, do better? And so I did. I started doing better. They used to have this system there where you were like, you could see who was like the top sales at that time. And so I was just determined to always be in the first three positions as much as I could be. And I did do it. And so a little bit after that, that was when she asked if I was interested in that position. We had a very good district leader that would come through. He was also like a mentor to me. So when I would always like, every time he would come in, I would try to talk to him because a lot of the times people are afraid of the district and the regional people. Like they like scatter and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to talk to them. And they're not even intimidating, guys. They're like, they're like super nice. And, I think they actually enjoy that you come and speak to them and talk to them. So he was always very, very nice and he joked around with us, like super cool guy. But I would kind of start talking to him about that and let him know that I was interested in it. And he told me, okay, you still have to interview, and all right, cool. So that was around the time that people were going off on their own and booth renting. And so I applied for that position. I interviewed and they called me back and I got that position too, which super excited, especially as a mom. I was like, all right, cool. Yes. I'm going to make even more money now. And then, yeah, you go and it's like you have to start all over again. So there's always these like really, really high, exciting moments. And then you're like, knock the fuck back down. Like, don't try to climb too fast, sister.
That's a good one right there. Wow. So tell us a little bit like if you want to share like what's going on a little bit behind the scenes, because you shared you saw your first check and for 2 weeks it was only $360. You're a mom, you need to provide for your daughter, and that's a lot of stress. Along with, I believe you're still living with mom at this time. And so what's kind of going on at this time behind the scenes? Because the initial thing is because I'm doing this to provide for my daughter. So share what you want to share in regards to that, and like how did getting that management position help?
Okay, so actually, behind the scenes there, my mom had moved at this time. She had actually moved out of the place that we were in. She spoke to the landlord and said, my daughter still wants to stay here. She has a daughter. So she worked that out for me. So I was still able to live in the place that we lived, thank goodness. And I remember getting my electricity cut off at that time. I was, and the only reason it got cut off, it wasn't because I didn't like pay the bill, but it got cut off because my mom transferred the electricity to her new place. And so all of a sudden everything turns off and I'm like, wait, what? And I call my mom and she's like, well, you live on your own now. So, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So I had to go get that turned on. And so here's the thing. As a single mom, when you are trying, you do get benefits through the state. So I was able to get food stamps and get help that way, but I am not one of those people that want to rely on things like that because those things are temporary. It is easy to get comfortable in those positions and like, okay, cool. Like I'm getting money for food stamps. I get this and I get that. The moment that I decided to, like I was saying, I got that paycheck for $360 and I had to make a decision like, okay, I got to start leveling up and I need to start taking more. I need to start doing more. So the moment that I start making bigger paychecks, which is maybe $500, $600, I get my benefits through the state cut off completely. And so here we are again. You get knocked down again after feeling like, all right, cool, like I'm finally doing something, and you get knocked down again. But that is why mentally I did not want to rely on stuff like that because I knew eventually it was going to come to an end. That stuff is temporary. It's not for you to live on for, the rest of your life. So I was like, all right. But all of these little things, you're either going to be sad about it and not move forward, or you're going to say, all right, like I got to fucking kick it up a notch and we got to do this, And when you're a mom, I'm not saying that I didn't have hard days. I absolutely had hard days. I had a lot of crying days, a lot of, I think I had a lot of drinks at that time too. I did have those moments, but at the same time, life was still going to carry on whether or not I wanted it to. It was going to happen, So I just had to get up and keep going and keep doing it. So yes, when I got that management position, that was like, whew, all right, cool, awesome. Like we're doing it. But again, it was one of those things where you get knocked back down because they expect you got to do your numbers, you got to do this, you have to coach your people, you have to do this, but you also have to work behind the chair and get your numbers in too. So you're like, wait, what the fuck? That's hard.
And the thing is, usually they ask you to be in a position like that because you're doing pretty good. But then with the way that it works out, you kind of end up making the same amount of money. Is that what happened for you too? It's like double the work for about the same amount of dough. It's completely ridiculous. And that is part of the reason why corporations are headed the way that they're headed when it comes to salons. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But I'm going to let Monica keep going because listening to you talk and, you're talking about how every single time you think things are going well and things are getting better, it's like something on the other side of that, like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, and then shit hits the fan right when things are good. And I want to ask you, because people obviously know that you're independent now if you're booth renting at my salon. How did that color your vision and affect you with, because you obviously had a transition, and I want you to get to the part where you talk about that transition, but I'm very interested to see how your previous experiences with growing and you expecting shit to hit the fan, how did that affect you? And did you overcome that to get to where you are? Is it something you still fight? I'm interested to see how that ties into your journey.
So at finally, oh man, I was probably about a year in the management. I had an amazing team at this time. Like I had this group of young women who, I mean, we kicked ass all the time. We were always, our numbers were always in the green. Like we were leveling up. They would jump from like stylist to, you know, they had your certain levels. We all felt good. Like it just felt really good at this time. So of course, right when you're getting there, something else happens. And I had about maybe two or three of my strongest girls that all came to me around the same time, and they were ready to move on. And they were leaving the salon. So deep down, I was a little bit crushed, but at the same time, like I could not hold them back from their own journeys. You're happy for them. You're just like, you know, hey, if I can't blame you for it, like, heck yeah, keep doing what you're doing. One person was actually going to school for something else. Another person, she was a mom, so I totally understood. Another one, you know, they just all had different journeys. So you can't be mad at the fact that your stylists are wanting to like grow and level up. It was like I was a mom to them too in that salon, and you're just like, hey, like, awesome. Like, go ahead, little bird, and fly. So, you know, you're just happy for them. So, I still at that time didn't see myself going off and on my own. I was still very scared. Being in corporate, like it felt a little bit more secure because even though the paycheck may not have been great, you were still going to get paid. Even if you didn't meet the commission part, you were still going to get paid. I also had benefits through the salon as well. So, you know, how the heck could I just leave something like this? So I then got pregnant with my second baby. And I was kind of feeling like I just had the idea in my head at this time that, you know what, if these women could go off on their own and be successful on their own, then why the hell can't I do it? You know, why am I so scared? And why do I feel like I have to stay in this corporate salon? But then being pregnant with my baby and getting the benefits, I was like, okay, no, this is not the time to do it. I guess I'll stay here and I will manage that. So I did, but about halfway through my pregnancy, I realized that I did not want the stress of managing team members at that time. I was pregnant, I was on my feet all day, and really I kind of just wanted to worry about me at that time. So I was a little bit nervous, but at the same time, I was very comfortable with letting my regional manager know that that I wanted to step down as a manager. And he was very, he understood and made me feel like, okay, you know, I totally get it. And then he kind of throws a bomb at me and he's like, you're going to hire your replacement. He never did that, ever. And so I'm like, okay, no pressure. So I'm like, I wanted to step down, not do more work. So yes, then I had to like pay attention to the applications that were coming in and stuff like that. So long story short, we got someone in there. And little did I know at that time that that was going to be another big transformation that was going to happen. But it looking back, it was meant to happen that way. So I go on maternity leave, and while I'm on maternity leave, I actually get a message from one of the stylists. And it was a very heavy message. And he tells me, do not go back to the salon. It's completely changed. It's different. It's not the same anymore. Don't go back. So I'm like, well, what the hell changed? I did not know at that time what had changed. So I do remember going, I was still on maternity leave, but I went in just to kind of see and look around, see what was going on. I still didn't really know because it was more of just like a pop in. Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? I was still enjoying my baby at the time. And nothing really looked different to me. So I finish out my maternity leave. I come back, and yes, you could just feel the vibe and the energy was completely different. That stylist that had messaged me and told me that not to come back, he actually left. No 2 weeks, he just left. And so I was like, okay. I also, when you have been at a place for so long, and also those of you who go to the mall here, you do know that some of these stores are not very big. So I knew that store like the back of my hand. I knew what we had. I knew what we didn't have as far as inventory goes. And I come back and I immediately noticed that we're missing merchandise. And that was like, okay, wait, what? Like, we don't really sell this stuff. So how did this stuff, why is it not here? So I started doing a little bit of digging. I still was like logged in as a manager. Yes. And I was investigating and figuring out, because that is like my second home, that's my home away from home. So I wanted it to be taken care of. And so like, what's going on? So I start looking and I start noticing that there are some things that we don't have on hand, but in the computer, it says that we have them. And so red flags went up. I had a very good relationship with our district manager. So I'm like, hey, texting him, this is what we're saying we have on hand. We do not have any of this merchandise on hand. Like, I don't know where it is. I've looked in the back. There was not really a lot of places it could be. So red flags went up. And I remember going home and I told my husband, I don't like this. It's not a good feeling. I don't know what's going on, but there's something going on that I don't like. I need to figure out a change immediately. So I had already been here for 7 years. And so that's why I'm saying I knew this place. I knew like the back of my hand what we had and what we didn't have. So that did not sit well with me. I asked.
How long were you out on maternity leave?
I was actually out for, let me see, I want to say about 8 weeks. So this is 8 weeks of all kinds of shenanigans going on at that time that I did not know about. And when I took my maternity leave, I took my maternity leave. I didn't call and like, hey, how are you guys doing? I wanted to be with my baby at that time. So that was really tough. But once again, it was just meant to happen that way, because I wouldn't be where I am now. So let's see, where am I at now? Oh yeah, so coming back and I was like, like what the hell is going on? I told my husband. My husband is he does not deal with change very well. So at this time, I kind of knew that I needed to make a change. So I hop on over to another place, and this is where I meet Kim.
Do you want me to fill in my side of the story, Monica?
Yes, please. That'd be awesome.
Okay, cool. So, our stories kind of intersect right when Monica comes back from maternity leave. So I was managing another corporate salon in the mall, which, if you're in San Angelo, is directly across from the gym that I go to now. So let me kind of paint the picture for you guys. And I'm not saying names, but I'm going to connect the dots. So, and the two of them know what I'm saying by that. You guys might not, but they know. So, I had been at that salon for maybe 3 years. And I started at that salon almost immediately out of cosmetology school. Like I told y'all in one of the first episodes, like originally I went to school for cosmetology, but I really wanted to do skin, but I liked skin and nails. So essentially at that salon, I had applied for the aesthetics position. Like I wanted to do skin. And then I was brought in for an interview. And then at the end of the interview, the person interviewing me told me, oh, we already have someone for skin, but I see that you are you have a cosmetology license. We could definitely bring you in for hair. And then when that position opens, we would consider you for moving into that position. And I was like, okay, cool. I don't love that, but I can do it. And I was like, I'm allergic to ammonia. Because for my migraines, like I even had a note from my neurologist in cosmetology school that I was not allowed to use ammonia. So I got out of doing a lot of hair color because that was all that the school had. So I was using, obviously school was a Redken school. I'm cool with saying Redken or like color names. So we had color fusion and cover fusion at the school. So like I knew the basics of formulation. I really didn't know that much about formulation, but they had chromatics at the salon. And I was like, oh, cool. There's no fragrance, no ammonia. It's an oil-based color. I can work with that and not have a migraine. Awesome. So when I started, I dove into all of their like module education and like all their stuff. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. I'm learning so much more than I ever learned in school. I'm learning the why behind everything. I would take the color books and study the color books, like all those information sheets in the swatch books. I would study those sheets that taught you everything. And my first paycheck, so I had been independent after school for about 3 or 4 months. And I was commissioned, like I said, in one of the other episodes, and I was kind of being taken advantage of. They had me work the front desk for no pay, but they were like, oh, well, you could get clients if you work the front desk. You can answer the phone and book people. That's illegal, guys. Don't do that. Wish I would have known back then, but lesson learned. So the entire like 3 or 4 months that I was independent, maybe made 150, 200 bucks within that amount of time. But I probably spent out of our own money because I didn't have any type of business, LLC, sole prop. I had nothing set up for myself at that time. So I was spending our personal money, which obviously wasn't fair to Ben, my husband. Sorry, I don't think I've said Ben's name on here before. I don't give a fuck. So I probably spent a couple $1,000s on like buying retail, putting my name on there, like my little logo that it was like a whole thing. So my first paycheck was $254 for 2 weeks of work. And I remember crying because that was the most I had made. Like I made more in one paycheck than I had in the last 4 months of working. So where Monica's reaction was like, this is not enough, I was like, oh my God, this is so good. I was that excited about a little over $200. And I was like, all I had to do was show up and I got paid. But if I apply myself, I can make way more than this. Go ahead, Nessa.
But I think it's so cool, like in the history of women, that you both made your own money.
Yes.
And I'm so proud that y'all had those moments. But I think it's so cool that you were able, that was your money, even though it was so little. I mean, even looking back now, God, holy shit. But wow, I think that's really cool. Go ahead.
It was like, I did that. I did that on my own. And, you know, it felt very good for me, but it inspired me because it was still a smaller number, because our goal at that time, because I was obviously brought in because our commission salon also had the tiers and like level jumping in between tiers and different levels of commission and all of that stuff. So starting at the bottom level, I'm looking at these numbers and I'm like, if I could get to this level, I could make 50% instead of 43%. And I really want to make half of what I'm doing. So I was bound and determined to grow. And the salon manager at that time was like, no one's ever level jumped. And then salon managers automatically get put in at that 50% level. So they don't have to like work up those levels. They just kind of get put in at that level. So that person had never had to level jump or apply themselves or anything. It was kind of like you show up, you do your clients that are there, but you get a paycheck no matter what. You're just clocking hours. But with where I was at, I was like, I am committed to growing as fast as possible. And it takes 3 months of numbers to do one level jump. So every single month I was checking my rolling 3 months to see where I was at with level jumping. And I was the first person to level jump at that salon. And I consistently level jumped every 3 to 6 months the whole time I was there. I want to say when I left, I had hit Master Designer 2, which was like the one right before Elite, which Elite is like you have to do 100,000 in services in a year. And I was bound and determined to hit that. But obviously we parted ways before I was able to hit that, which is totally fine. Not a big deal. But I proved the system wrong. Like because everybody always said, it's San Angelo, you can't do that. You can't grow like that. We're out here and we're part of districts that are like Dallas area, where our numbers are being compared against salons that are in big cities like that. So, and I know Monica can speak to this as well, like just the fact of proving people wrong, like, yes, if I can fucking do this, I can commit to hitting these numbers behind the chair and getting to where I want to be. But the thing is, once I started showing up as my best self, it challenged everybody else, one person in particular, who was content with getting by and just taking it easy. So me level jumping made this particular person not look the best. So the person who I thought was my mentor and my friend started retaliating against me and doing things around the salon to get under my skin. And it got really, really ugly. And this person also knew where all the cameras were and where there weren't cameras, and would do certain things where there was no camera footage to get away with them and to push buttons, which is not okay. So the time that I was there being mentored by this person was like, oh, you're doing so good. Why don't you take on some of these management responsibilities, just show me that you want to be here. So I was manipulated into doing this person's job for them. So all they had to do, like making the schedule, being on conference calls, doing all of the ordering, like every single job this person had, I was doing it to show initiative, but I wasn't being paid for that. I was being paid commission on my services only. So that person got to just hang out with clients behind the chair while I was doing their job. But being in a corporate situation, a lot of it is dangling carrots in front of you to make you perform better. It's a lot of manipulation behind the curtain in corporate. So I am a very passionate, driven person, and I was committed to climbing that ladder. I earned full time. I earned benefits. I earned 401k. I had Blue Cross Blue Shield, which was a really, really big deal for hairstylists to have insurance. And I did that for myself. And I wasn't on my husband's shit. I was on my own shit. And that felt so good. But like I said, this person got hostile, verbally, emotionally, and physically. So I had to start speaking up. And the thing is, like, the team in the salon knew that I was the one doing the work, but this other person was getting all the credit for it. This person would even take credit for everything on conference calls, like to district leaders. Like it was so shitty. So the girls were coming to me telling me they were scared of being in the same room with this person. Like they would literally be on the floor to stay away from the salon. And you guys know, in a retail store, you don't want to be on the floor. You want to be doing your services. But these girls would literally like go help out the retail girls so that they wouldn't have to be in the salon around this person's energy and just feeling that tension. So it got to the point where I had to continue filing reports, speaking to management, and being a whistleblower about things that were going on, because I had to speak up for my girls, because I didn't want to have to, lose an entire team and then have to catch all these pieces and try to put them together because this person took a wrecking ball to everything. And it got to the point where that person was finally let go. And that person ended up being the person who took over for Monica during her maternity leave. That is how Monica and I found out who the other person was to begin with. So after this,
wild.
It was insane, absolutely insane. But like we said, we believe everything happens for a reason, and it's what you make of it. It's what you do with it. Shit's gonna happen, and you can let life happen to you, or you can make it happen for you. And Monica and I both chose to rise above the situation and choose ourselves instead of wallowing in self-pity and being a victim. So I was then, they were starting to look for applicants for the salon manager, and my average, and I will say the numbers, I don't care. My average at the time was, I want to say that I was averaging 28 an hour in the salon. With like how it worked out, with that was doing this person's job and my clients and all of that stuff. So that's where I was numbers wise. And I knew that this person was making 26 an hour. Whenever they got to offering, because this person told me everything. So when it got to the point where I was going through the interview process with management, they offered me $18 an hour because I had no experience as a manager. And I was like, okay, so this does not add up. So you want me to take a pay cut, essentially, to be, well, if you really want it, there's so much potential to grow in this position. If you really want it, you'll, commit to doing it. So I talked them up to 20 and accepted 20, whenever that is obviously not what I should have been making. And then in management, they want you to give everyone else the clients because you're getting a guaranteed paycheck. So you still have a certain number you have to do, but you still need to like feed your team. And then they throw you into salon management training. And then they tell you how much money you're losing by not having the chairs filled and you need to fill your chairs. But then you're not going to give me the hours to support these people because we're not making the money. So how am I supposed to fill these chairs when you want these girls to have 5 to 8 hours a week? They can't build a clientele on 5 to 8 hours a week. So you can give me a smaller team where they're doing 15, 20 hours a week, which is still nothing if you think about it, to where those girls have the time to apply themselves to grow. So it's like you're keeping your team happy or you're keeping corporate happy, but you can't do both. So I was in the process of trying to fill my team with people who I knew I would click well with and who had a clientele where I wouldn't have to be like babysitting them, where they'd be building from the ground up. It's like I wanted people who had their thing going, but they wanted the stability that this salon would provide with the benefits and insurance and all that. And all that you'd have to do is kind of bring your reports and then show them your numbers whenever you came in. So I don't remember, actually, I think that I had heard about you from the person that connected us. And if it wasn't that, it might have been one of the girls that was at the salon at the time. I don't remember, but I know that we ended up chatting somehow. Do you remember, Monica?
I know, that's what I was trying to figure out too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to say I had just walked over there and I was like, hey, are y'all hiring?
But I can't remember if I had gone, no, there's no way that I would have gone by and said hi to you because I was avoiding that salon like the plague. So I think that you had to have come in because you were asking me about the inventory missing. You were kind of asking me about this person's character. You were like, hey, there's some red flags that I'm noticing. So I wanted to come talk to you. This person is talking shit about you. So I wanted to talk because I'm questioning this person's character. So I want to come directly to the source and see like what's going on and your thoughts on the situation. And you literally brought over like notes that you had been making about what had been missing and all your reports that you were running and things like that. So that's kind of where we started talking about like, what would it look like? Because Monica is obviously in an unhealthy situation. People weren't listening to her when she was trying to point out the red flags, and it just wasn't. Now she was no longer in a safe environment, and it was so important to who I am as a person and my character to provide a safe environment for my team. So that's when Monica and I started talking, and that's kind of where things went. So Monica, do you want to pick up from there on how things kind of progressed?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes. So I come in and I start talking to Kim, and just immediately, if you've ever met Kim, you can feel, you just know that she's like a boss. She just has this energy about her that, you're like, okay, I want to be around her, and I want to, there is something at that time, I did not know what it was, but there was something about her that yes, you're absolutely right. I felt safe going over there. So we're kind of chatting back and forth for a few days, just trying to get everything situated. And then all of a sudden, I think I had finally applied. I get a text message from the person and they're like, are you going over here? It was a little bit aggressive. I'm trying to put a voice to it, but that is how it came out in the text message. It was aggressive. Like, are you going over there? Are you doing this? Like I was being, and I'm like, how the heck do you know? Like what, I had not even told anybody that I was doing that. Well, someone, I guess, saw me going in, talking with Kim, and someone went and told him or text him, whatever. And so I was like, well,
from what I understand, I believe it was one of the girls on the retail team, because this person had a lot of like plants, like friends, because this person is a narcissist, and narcissists spin their webs and they put ideas in your head and they get you wrapped around their finger, and then they can do whatever they want with you. So this person still had a lot of connections in my corporation.
Yes. So I just owned up to it, and I was like, yeah, I said, actually, I am considering it. I did apply, and it was like, oh, okay, well, you'll like it over there. Then it shifted, and then it was like, I guess, and I don't know, instead of coming to me and saying, well, hey, is there anything I can do to help? Or, is there anything that I don't know. I would have just asked those questions if it was me, but hey, it's not me. So then it was like, oh, you'll do fine then. And okay, cool, because I'm going. So
Which to me,
I head over.
it to me sounds like that person was like, oh, this person won't be here watching over my shoulder and behind my back. This person's not going to be around anymore. Perfect. Please leave.
Yes. And I was more than happy to, because I did not want to be involved in any of the things that were going on. So I did go, and just immediately there was this weight just completely lifted off of my shoulders. Just not having to worry about anything. Kim was very, very good about coming to us and helping us reach goals that I'm going to say I, because I can't speak for anybody else, that I did not know that I was capable of reaching. Because even though there was still the same level system in both corporate salons, this particular salon was definitely a few levels up from where I came from. And everything in there was newer to me. It was more, it was light and bright in there. So everything was just different. The chairs were nice. Like, it wasn't old, it was all new. And so it was like, wow, like, okay, cool. Like, I have leveled up, and just being out of that other place, and it felt really good. So, but then here comes Kim and her numbers. And it made me very uncomfortable a lot. But she was doing her job at the time.
I'm going to cut in, Monica.
Yeah.
So, I am not proud of the way that I coached my team with the way that I was taught to coach at that time. And I know Monica's being nice and she's not going to say it, but corporate taught me to manipulate people into, things like, well, you had a really great week last week. Well, why didn't you do that this week? Like, what's going on? What do we need to fix so that you can actually have consistent numbers? Because you showing me that you can have a good week means that you can do that every week. So that's how I was taught to coach. And that's not me. That's not how, like, who I am as a person anyways. So energetically for me, it's like I was trying to lead from a heart-centered space, but also make corporate happy. So it was like this energetic tennis, if you will, like going back and forth between heart-centered, but I got to be a hard ass, but I really love these people and I want to support them in their goals, but I got to make corporate happy too, So there were a lot of times where when I would facilitate a meeting about numbers or goal setting, it came across mean. And I know that I hurt people's feelings when I did that. Monica and I have already discussed that. We've healed from that. But I just want to give Monica full permission to be honest about her story, because we've already worked through that. And we wouldn't be talking about it if we hadn't worked through that. So go ahead and continue, Monica.
No, it was, I feel like for me, I don't ever feel like you came across mean, because I was in a management position. So I understood what your position was coming to me and bringing numbers to me. Although those numbers were very, very scary to me, the prices were different from where I came from. And I think for a long time I had just been stagnant. So seeing this corporation's prices, it was like, oh, my people are not going to pay that. They're not going to want to pay that. They're not going to want to. I let so much of that fear just get into my own head, and I just was not ready. But I did feel like you were very gentle with it. You were, because that was you. That was not the corporate talk. You were like, okay, I also remember the papers where it tells you like where you're like one through, like if you're one in the district or whatever for sales and stuff. So there were times that like I was up there like 1 and 2. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like, yes, I didn't even know that. Like that was exciting, just being up there, because then, there is something within you that you can do, because it's showing in your numbers and on the paper, but the pricing was still very scary to me. Sometimes you just don't, you're just thinking like, nobody's going to want to pay this. Everything was a la carte. Your haircut, your highlights, your toner, your every single thing was a la carte. So it's like everything is just adding up, and this ticket price is going to be like $300 and something. And oh my gosh, like, no, like I went from charging maybe 125 to all of a sudden these huge tickets, and like there's no freaking way that I'm going to be able to do this. It was very scary, very. And then I actually did not stay here very long. I was here about 6 months.
Yeah, I want to say that you came over in like February, and then was that 2018, I think. I think you came over in February, and then I want to say, like you said, we were together about 6 months. And Monica was my heaviest hitter in the salon. Like she was right behind me in numbers, and we did the majority of the salon sales together. So go ahead and tell the story about what it was like for you to tell me.
Hold on real quick.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Just a sec. Before we transition, because we're at about an hour mark, so I want to wrap up this story about your time here at this location, and then we will talk in the next episode. We're going to leave y'all with a hook, line, and sinker. You're going to have to wait to listen to the next one about Monica's transition into Urban Collective. So please finish up this story, and then we will move forward.
Okay, yay. Okay, so at this time, I was a super emotional person, but I think that had a lot to do with just having a baby. And now, I did not know this at the time, but I feel like now that I look back on it, I felt like I was kind of disappointing Kim, and I did not want to disappoint her, which she probably didn't even feel that way. It was just, now that I look back, I was like, damn, here's this person that sees something in me, and I'm having to like come and tell her like, hey, I can't do this anymore. So I was crying, like ugly crying, and telling her that I could not be here anymore. It was just too much for me. I probably made every excuse that I could think of just to like make it okay for me to leave. I'm crying. I'm like, oh, Kim, I can't do it. And poor her, she's just like listening to me like, okay. And I do remember you telling me, Monica, I don't want you to go back and charge $25 for a haircut. And I was like, well, that's just what I have to do, I don't know if those were my exact words, but I was just thinking to myself, like, I might have to for now, just super, super emotional at that time. There was just a lot in my own personal life that was going on, and it just like all kind of piled on me. And like I said, Kim is one of those people that she sees things in you. And so I did not want to disappoint her, but I felt like and I felt like I was like letting her down.
So it's so interesting that you say that, Monica, because what came up for me when you said that, it's like I was thrown back into that moment when we were back in the office having that conversation. And I remember thinking, the only thing that's disappointing me is you not believing in yourself. Because I knew you didn't see it in you. And I would get so frustrated because like, and with the way that I coached you guys, it was like, this number looks really big, but when we break it down, it's actually not that hard. So like you literally just need one client a day to hit this number. So like I will say I'm really good at breaking things down very simple, very easy to attain, which is what I do in my mentoring now. I take a big goal and I break it down super simple and easy to where you can implement it and it's sustainable. So at that time, I felt like I was doing everything in my power to support Monica, but it's like this saying, like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Like, Monica had to believe in herself, and she wasn't there yet. And that's what was the hardest for me. I remember going home and just venting to Ben, like, she just won't believe in herself. Like, she can't. I don't know why she can't see it in her. I see it in her. I don't know why she doesn't see it. So I'm sure he got tired of me, talking about how awesome you were, but you weren't owning your awesome. So one thing I do remember from that conversation when we parted ways was me saying, Monica, this is not goodbye. This is a see you later. I definitely remember saying that.
That is
Yes, that was
cool.
Yes, it was really hard, but yeah, little did we know that that was going to be just with Cam and I were meant to meet. And even though like we go back and we're like, oh gosh, this is how we met, it was all meant to happen that way. So like when you're in it and you're going through it, no, it doesn't feel good and all that. But when you can look back at that journey, you're like, holy shit, that is beautiful. Like it's amazing to, it was like a chaotically beautiful moment. So yes. And actually, of course, at that time we did not, I know we're trying to wrap this up, sorry. We did not know about human design back then. And so, Kim has talked about being a projector. And I also did not know that I'm a projector as well. So we are here, like she has said before, to piss you off, but piss you off in a good way because we see things in you that you don't see in yourself. And so she did piss me off, but I was not pissed off at her. It was Kim, it's like she has this shovel and she starts digging. And you're just like, hold on, wait a minute. Like, I'm not ready for that. No, yeah, give me my dirt back. Like, I want it back. I want to be buried and not come out and shine. I'm not ready for that. So that is a very, thanks for bringing out that shovel and digging that shit because yeah, she did make me mad and she did irritate me, but like I said, it wasn't her, it was me that I was really irritated with. Like I was not letting my own light shine.
Wow. Okay. So before we wrap this episode up, I do have a question for the both of you, because the both of you have mentioned in these corporate places where you were bullied, you were manipulated, and you had these situations that were not right. So what advice or ways of directing a person who could possibly be in the same situation, what would you tell them? What would they need to do, even if that step feels a little scary?
So, what instantly came up for me was, number one, if you're in a corporation or if this is happening regardless of your situation, you need to keep a notebook or a note in your phone with dates and times of things that are happening, so that you have proof to point to if you ever have to file a report or something like that, because you never know when someone is gonna flip a switch and turn physically aggressive on you. Ask me how I know. And I did not have anything to point back to record wise. So it's hard to get people to believe you whenever all they see is this other person's side of a story. So you have to have track everything. Whenever you start seeing red flags, don't make a scarf with them, make a notebook with them, write it down, and just keep little notes of this happened. I noticed this about this person today, little things like that. And it's just for yourself. It's not about anyone else. It's to protect yourself. It's not, because there was an instance in the salon where on the retail side, there were two managers keeping notebooks on each other, and one of them found the other person's notebook in the office. How ridiculous is it to keep notebooks on people? I can't even. So please keep it in your phone. We're all laughing on camera right now. We keep ourselves muted, but we're literally all laughing our asses off. So please keep it in your phone. Don't have a physical, tangible copy of this. You need digital records. So there's that. Also, I would say speak to your whatever level of management you feel comfortable with. If you know that the person who is bullying you is buddy with another manager, don't talk to that manager. Go a level above them and raise the alarm. Have a partner in it. Find another person on your team or in management who can vouch for you and who can confirm that these things are happening, and keep going up the ladder until people pay attention. And if that means emailing district leaders, regional leaders, if it do whatever you have to do. But if it's at the point where, and this is what happened for me, people weren't taking me seriously. I had one manager who did listen, because she was in the same situation with this person. So we both were being bullied by this same person and manipulated. So we had to come together and speak up together, which because we both were tracking our own experiences, they couldn't let this person's webs that they spun keep them from the truth, because they were getting fact checked from both sides by myself and the other manager. So that's my biggest advice, is keep going up the ladder, keep speaking up until something happens. And the more you speak up, it inspires other people to speak up as well. And they will get in big trouble if they retaliate because you spoke up. So that's on them. That's not on you. Also, if you're in a corporation where they're not taking you seriously anyways, and you keep trying and going up the ladder and it keeps getting, pushed under the rug, you need to leave. Your safety is not worth it. I know it's scary. And that's the thing where corporations kind of hold benefits and guaranteed pay over you. When you go out on your own, you're not going to have any of that. You're going to be all on your own, and nobody cares. Nobody's going to support you. We have your back here. We support you. You get all these amazing benefits. And there's so many people that are in corporate situations just because of the healthcare, literally just for the benefits and the guaranteed pay, because they are physically ill and they can't be discriminated against, so they get guaranteed pay, or a member of their family needs that insurance. And we don't fault you for that. You have to do what you have to do. But I promise you, you're going to do better than you think if you decide to go independent. but you have to believe that you're capable of that. You have to believe that. And I think that, Monica, if you have anything to speak to that, go right ahead. I will say before Monica hops on that it's very interesting, and we're going to start talking about this in the next episode, how I was planning leaving the salon as well, but I couldn't tell Monica because I had a really, really long, like 6-month plan for exiting. So I was just like I knew what was coming for me. So I was sad, but I felt so happy for Monica as well, but I couldn't tell her. So we're going to get into that in the next episode. But Monica, go ahead and tell us your advice for someone who's in that type of situation in a corporation.
I completely agree. Definitely keep note of everything, not in a notebook. Yes, keep it in your phone. It's funny. I was just glancing at my phone. I still have the very aggressive text message that I was sent from this person, calling me names and being very rude to me from back years ago. So it's just really funny. And I could have erased it already. The reason that I don't is just because it's like, I don't know, it's just one of those things that I hold on to. Like, I'm glad I'm out of there, and I'm glad that I'm not in that situation anymore. So yes, definitely keep note of what you're doing. Yes, if you are not feeling like you are getting what you need to from a corporation, definitely do not ever feel like you are obligated to stay there for them. Believe in yourself and just know that when it is time for you to exit, that you are going to be okay. Don't let them make you feel like you're not going to become anything because you're leaving us. Well, I damn sure can.
Did you want to mention anything, Kim?
No, I'm really excited for the second part of this, and I'm trying to not talk because Monica and I as projectors could literally continue talking forever. So we are going to make ourselves shut up so you can close us out because we're already ready for part 2.
Okay, guys, I'm excited for part 2. I just want to say that, and I agree with everything that they have mentioned, that if you are in a hard situation, don't hide from it. Don't feel like you have to be pushed in a corner, because no, take the notes, do what you need to do, take care of yourself, stand up for yourself, use your voice. And I'm sure that Kim and Monica, if you needed help, they would be able to guide. And Kim mentioned that you can slide into her DMs if you have any questions or direction with that. They would be more than willing to help and give you some advice with that. But okay, we're gonna call it. Yes.
Share Monica's Instagram really quick. I want to share her Instagram handle in both episodes.
Yes, I will make sure to have that in the show notes. Monica, will you say that? Because I do not have it on my phone right now. Please give us your info, your handles.
Yes, my Instagram handle is just Monica Ramirez Hair, all together.
Okay, guys, now you have it. Go find her, go see her, go like her stuff. Okay, we'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.